What up? What up? What up? It's your boy H2O. We back in the building. Welcome to the New Balance Podcast. It's your boy, your potential conditioner. Man, we back. Listen, as you can see, I still have my two lovely hosts with me. As promised, we're going to bring it to you this whole month. And man, if you missed episode 1, go back. Come on. Before you binge watch it, don't miss episode 1. Episode 1 is the foundation for all of this. So the ladies are in the building. I'm not going to do no longer introduction because when you watched part 1, if you didn't watch it, go back and see. But if you saw part 1, did you see how much information, this episode, I'm going to do a lot less talking. I'm going to turn them loose because it's a time for us, right? This is a season for us. And I have the tendency to laugh and joke and be funny, but in all seriousness, as it relates to mental health, I want to give you the title of it, My Mind Playing Tricks on Me. And we're talking about factors affecting our mental health. And this is part 2. So know that there are some factors, whether they be great, small, that weigh on our mental health. And I know when you hear mental health, you may think of, I won't assume, you may think of somebody in a straitjacket, locked up somewhere. You may think of somebody walking the streets with a coat on in the middle of the summer, or you may think of somebody just talking to themselves all the time, or you may think of somebody with some type of disorder, and those may be in some categories of mental health, but that's not the type of mental health we're talking about only today. We're just talking about if you got millions of dollars in the bank, you got your wife, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, but yet you're contemplating ending it all. I'm talking about you may be having a prevalent ministry. Oh man, touching the globe, changing lives. People are being saved, helping families move forward, helping sons and daughters come home, reconciling families. And you're thinking like, I don't want to live another day. I'm talking about those mental health issues that we deal with every day, but nobody talks about. And you may be a husband on here and man, life has just got you squeezed in this bubble and you're just trying to figure it out, but you haven't figured it out yet. Perhaps we need to delve into some mental health and help you navigate this season of life. Mom, it's like, man, I gave up my career and I'm just a mom. All I do is take care of these 2 kids. I don't have any purpose left. And I just really feel like I'm about to crack mentally. This podcast is for you. So if you haven't known, let me introduce my guest properly. In our top left, we want to shout out Mr. What am I talking about? Mrs. Stacy Page. What up, sis? How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm fired up and ready to go. And then we have at the bottom, we call her the anchor of this relay. Trust me, she can take it to the house. Don't let her beautiful smile fool you. She will take it to the house. Give it up for my sister, Miss Naila Harrison. What's up, sis?
I'm blessed. I can't complain. How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm so blessed. We've been talking just a little bit off camera, and these 2 ladies here, we all share a like passion, and they work in the field of mental health. And I tell you, their experiences, their knowledge, and just their time spent in this area is so valuable. And I thought it'd be great for us to team up to help people, families, communities, organizations, businesses. Mental health, it affects all of us in a greater or lesser degree, right? And I think having these conversations, it helps us be better. We're all about being better. And just a little recap, we kind of started off talking about, we talked about confidence, and we talked about just feeling love in episode 1. And we're gonna pick back up there. And we really dug in and opened up some things that can be uncomfortable. I shared on the first episode, I know what it's like to feel like I wasn't loved. And there were a few seasons where I felt like that. And what I want to start off today talking about is that really legitimate in terms of this? in one particular season, this I would say I was out my mom's house. So this is my adult years. So me and my dad, which was just a very, very tough situation for me growing up, not having him. I'm in my adult years. So now I'm doing what I call a reconnect. I'm reaching out to him and I'm trying to have a father-son relationship in my adult life. But I think when I look back at it now, I was going about it wrong. I was looking for a father-son connection that should have happened when I was a little boy, right? But I'm an adult now, and I have a child of my own. Our oldest daughter. I have a child, so I'm a father. Looking at it now, I should have tried to connect from that aspect, but because of the little boy in me, it had never been. Well, let me say this. I won't say never. It was. It was still lying dormant in me, and there were so many things that I wanted from him, and I was so desperate to get it. I was trying to get it in my adult years, and so one of the times I said I didn't feel love. That's one of the times I was talking about, and it was a struggle. Even though we'd have times together, and those times were good, got some great memories, but I still struggle with this. Like, does he love me? Like, is he really like in my corner? Because if he loved me, like he would have came to get me. He'd have made a better effort to be in my life. He all of these he woulda. I said all that to say this. When you're the person that's feeling like you're not loved, is there a place where that person is wrong for feeling that way, even though it's something from a past that could be construed based off of their perception? Like, is that a something solid to stand on for people who feel like, well, I'm not loved, right? Because we'll say, well, perception is your perception of it. As it relates to mental health, how do you help someone and address someone who may have those type of feelings or something similar?
So in my experience, and I have worked with a number of individuals that have experienced the abandonment. They've had the abuse, they've had the neglect, and it did start in their past with their parents. It did go back to childhood. And so a lot of them felt like, well, my mother wasn't there, my father wasn't there. Maybe
Right.
neither parent was there because, we have a lot of grandparents raising, their grandchildren these days.
Yeah.
So for them, they equated it to, they did not love me. And so then they started feeling like, well, was it something wrong with me? Was it something, I did?
There
So
we go.
they start taking on all that self-blame. So then here comes all the guilt. And so I tell, the clients that I work with, the ones experiencing that, I'm like, you had nothing to do with their choices and their decisions. Okay. So don't take all that on, because then you're taking it upon yourself. You start blaming yourself. Then here comes the guilt. Then here comes the anxiety. And next thing you know, you're depressed. And it just goes from there. So I do tell them that they have to, separate it. And I'm like, then when it comes to your parents, I'm like, if your parents weren't there for you, I'm like, maybe it's because their parents weren't there for them. So again, it goes back to like, the generational stuff, because we can't give what we didn't get.
Right.
So I tell people, if it was not there, if it wasn't given to you, then you don't know how to give it to the next person. If it wasn't modeled for you and you didn't learn it, you don't know how to teach the next person, and you don't know how to show them. So I do tell people it is how we perceive it, how we think about it, but to learn to, separate yourself from what somebody else did. I mean, because of course, if you're a child, it is up to your parents to have that attachment, to have the, that bond. But again, maybe they didn't have it from their parents, but don't ever feel like it was something that you said or that you did that made them act the way they acted.
Ooh, before you answer, Naila, listen, that's why this mental health is so important, because what you just said, now I'm married, have a family, and my kids, there's a part of me that I don't even give them because I don't know how to give it to them, especially my son. Something about fathers and their daughters is, I don't know if it's just a normal gravitation to your girls and that type of thing. At least, well, let me speak for me. that dynamic of the relationship. But my son, man, and if you can interview him, I just believe this, and he's demonstrated it. He would tell you it's the best relationship in his life. All the fun memories. But I can tell you as his father, it was such a struggle. There was a season in my life I struggled to even hug my son the way a father should, because I didn't know how to do it. People hear me talk about my grandfather and the great impact, but I didn't come from a family where men hugged and embrace you. Men didn't hug. I didn't see men cry. They didn't hug you and tell you they love you and that I'm proud of you. And those, I didn't see that. And you can say all day long, I'm gonna be a better father, but no, you're not if you don't have a model. No, you're not if there's not a blueprint for you. Somebody's gonna have to help you. So, but one of the things I'm so grateful for is that's why you got to get healed. When healing took place, I could move forward. So it's been steps throughout this process. And so what I was able to do, I said, you know what, I'm going to make a mockery of the enemy in this. And what I did was I was able to get myself in a place. I said, I'm going to do a writing. And I said, I'm going to write my son a love letter and I'm going to put it in the form of a playbook. We're big sports people in my family. And that's how I came up with the book. God has an app for that. Because what I realized is there are some generational things. There are some things my father fought. And because he wasn't victorious in them, he passed them along to me. And I realized I wasn't being victorious. But what I did is I got mad one day and I said, no, I'm not passing these down to my son. And so I'm going to beat him. I'm going to defeat him because he already has some things that he has to contend with in life. And so I was able to write the book. I thank God for it. But I wanted to share that to show you, like, do not play around with this mental health, these things that are connected to it. It is such a vital thing. And especially in the day where our young men are they're starving for fathers. They're starving for the love of the father, the hug of the father, the approval of the father, all of these things. So men, hear me on here. Am I absolutely not. I was trying to love it. I didn't know. And thank God for all the surrogate fathers that God sent, right? But this is what you have to understand about surrogate fathers. They have their dents in the armor too. So you may get a surrogate father. He may not know how to do these things. There are other areas he helps you in, right? So, but because of all of them, I was able to get this hybrid of a man, right? And come up with it. So I'm in a good place now. I'm in a great place now. Me and my son relationship in a great place now, right? So I know because it's been defeated. When he has kids, oh man, he's gonna be he's gonna be way better than me as a father. Because he has the benefit of not only learning and seeing, but he knows the things I've been through. I'm proficient in sharing with him. Even the mental health portion of it, I share with him. This is how you beat it, son. Don't take 40 years or 20 years to have to fight this fight. Go ahead and slay Goliath, cut that joker head off, and get the benefits of it. I just had to interject that, Naila, before you.
Oh no, that's perfect.
That was a great. Thank you, Dr. Page, for that. That was awesome. You touched me when you said that, because that's like some of the things we see happening in our society, and those are under the category of feeling love, the confidence. Not, I'm telling you, men are dealing with it. All because the father, he neglected his responsibility, where he did it knowingly or he did know and didn't do it. Go ahead.
Well, Dr. Page hit the nail with the head. Like, it's not, she said everything.
Wait a minute. Did she say everything? She didn't say nothing.
She really did. No, she really did. No, it's cool though.
Wow. Come on, Dr. Page.
I'm great with that. No, I have something to say, but like, she hit the nail on the head. And I know we talk a lot about, we don't talk about the fact that a lot of times in society, in the African-American community in general, men are taught, like, why are you crying?
Right.
Like you said, why are you crying? Real men don't cry, punks cry. Let's just be real.
Wait. Say that again, but say it slow. What do we say in our community? What do we tell
men? Men don't cry.
And what term do we call them when they
cry? You acting like a sissy. They say all kind of negative things like that.
Right.
And that plants different kinds of seeds that you don't want to grow.
Absolutely.
In children. So it sets the tone and the expectation that men are not supposed to show emotion.
Right.
And men are not supposed to hug, and men are not supposed to do all the things that you're supposed to do. It's not okay to express how you feel.
Right.
Why are
Right.
you acting like that? That's what women do.
Oh, wow.
Right? But a real man cries. Real men hug. Real men communicate how they feel and what they need and who they need it from. So for you to be able to say, hey, I didn't know what to do. My father wasn't here, but there were other men who were there to continue teaching me and grooming me and helping me grow into the man that I've become. I think that's powerful because some people don't have that they don't have that extra support. It's not accessible. So I think that's also probably why you so much into men and younger men, so that you could break the generational curses and start rebuilding the paths of what we want to see in the future generations.
Oh man, that's great. Now y'all have helped me. I have to take this. It's a curve here, and I want to go there. Now I want to say this about my father too on here. I mentioned even in my book talking about. Let me say this about my dad. He was a great dad. I love him dearly. Nothing can ever change that. The reason he didn't have it to give to me because it wasn't given to him. It wasn't shown to him, right? And it may sound like I'm angry at him or mad or that's not it. I'm telling you, I'm in the best place ever in life in terms of that relationship and those things. And when my pops passed away, I was in a great place in terms of our relationship. But I had to identify some things in order that I might be better, right? And when you identify some things, sometimes you open up it's just some distasteful things, right? So I want to encourage you to do that. The other thing I want to say to you, specifically men, I have some friends in my life now. I'm talking about male relationships. I have some brothers, man. The scripture talks about iron sharpening iron. I have some iron in my life now. That's some for real iron. Some of the iron I've been knowing for a long time. One of them specifically, he and I talk now is definitely that iron sharpening iron. Now, I can be honest, years ago, he and I had a relationship, but it's totally different than what it is now. I didn't have the courage to go to him and be transparent. And many times you don't feel that, right? It's something that has to be learned. It's something that has to be taught. And related to mental health, the earlier and the sooner you can learn it and get it, the better off your life is going to be, and the better off the life of those that are connected to you are going to be. I'm telling you, a lot of families are weighed down because the man, like a boat, an anchor, when you drop an anchor, it keeps the boat, watch this, it keeps the boat steady. It keeps the boat from drifting away. Even when the waves come in, that anchor, watch, it keeps that boat steady. It may rock, but because the anchor is down, the boat ain't going anywhere. But what's happened because we are unwilling to address things, the anchor that's designed to anchor us, the anchor has sunk under the surface, and in turn, it's pulled the boat under, and everybody on it is capsizing, and their life is in danger because the anchor that's meant to stabilize it has sunk beneath the surface. This is a season you cannot be sunk as a husband or father, the head. You got to come from out of that soil and get back to the place where you can be anchored and everything that's connected to you be anchored. And I'm talking your feeling love, your confidence, just as a man, being who God called you to be. You need a model. If you don't have a model, reach out. This is a place. If you need to reach out to me, we can help you do that. So on here, I have the sisters on, and I'm telling you, one thing I love about the sisters are willing to talk. They're willing to deal with it, right? Sometimes as men, we just don't want to open up and talk. We got to talk. The season of you being quiet is over. I ain't going to go there. Well, yeah, I'm going to go there. In my next book that's being released at the end of the year called You Have the Right to Remain Silent, you'll hear all about this. That's why you hear me kind of going on. But anyway, you do have the right to remain silent. But when you remain silent, everything connected to you is going to die. Don't die. Get that mental help. Get the mental workout that you need so your muscles can be strong in the right way. We put a lot of effort and time on building this physical temple, and we should. Nothing against it. Cool. I know all that. That's cool. But as equally as you do that physically, you have to do that mentally and spiritually as well. I will be quiet. Go ahead, ladies.
You brought up confidence, and I know we
Yeah.
touched on it in the last episode a little bit,
Yeah.
but I like to give definitions because your perception is your reality, right? So everyone doesn't perceive things the same way.
Absolutely.
So confidence is the feeling or belief that you can rely on someone or something. It's a firm trust. Everyone does not always have that, right?
Right.
Confidence gives you a positive outlook on life. When you have confidence, you look forward to life. You think things are going to go well for you. You have positive assumptions that things are going to go well as opposed to negative. But when you have a low confidence level, you have your feelings of self-worth and self-respect decrease, right? So you're not as self-assured. Your self-concept changes, like Dr. Page talked about before. And you also may not care how others treat you or how you treat yourself. So your confidence has a lot to do with your self-esteem, your self-worth, how you love yourself, because we teach people how to treat us, right? We teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
So in setting boundaries and things like that, it helps us when it comes to teaching people how to treat us and what we're willing to accept and what we're not willing to accept.
Go ahead, Dr. Page.
And Nyla is correct in stating that where we do treat people how to treat us. And it does definitely start, with setting the boundaries with individuals.
Yeah.
So that is one thing I'm really big on is setting and maintaining boundaries. Because a lot of times what will happen when it comes to our self-love and our confidence, we're actually looking to somebody else to give us that self-love or to give us that confidence versus than looking internal, because again, that's where it all starts. So, if you can't love yourself, then how do you love somebody else appropriately? If you're not setting, the boundaries with yourself, saying this is, how far I'm going to go and I will not, cross the line for anybody.
Right.
How do you set, the boundaries with other people? So I always tell people it always starts with you. And when it comes to it, what you think about, that's going to determine how you feel and it's going to determine how you act. So that's why I always tell people, there is that whole connection where what we're thinking about daily, it's going to determine how you feel. It's going to determine what you do on a daily basis. So when it goes to mental health, we have to make sure that we are taking care, of our minds, because that's where it all starts.
Right.
Okay. So we don't have it together mentally, then you're not going to have anything else together in your life because you're going to be all over the place. You're going to let your emotions, dictate your decisions, which emotional decisions, making decisions when you're angry, upset, frustrated, worst decision you can ever make, because emotions are temporary. They're going to go away. But if you have made this decision, it's going to come with some consequences. And there are a lot of decisions that you can't reverse. You can't undo them. So that is why I do, stress to people that it does start with number one, just having ourselves, in a stable place mentally. So we're making, the good decisions. We're making, the rational decisions. We're thinking logically, because if we're not, then it just messes up everything else, in our lives. We don't have, the good relationship with ourselves. We're not able to love ourselves and have, the high self-esteem and have the confidence that comes with that.
Right.
And then also, other people are going to see that, and then that's why, you get people out there saying, oh yeah, I can take advantage of them, because guess what? They don't love themselves, which if you love yourself, yes, you're going to set those healthy boundaries, you're going to stick to them, and you're not going to let anybody cross those boundaries, and just treat you any kind of way.
Ooh, y'all packing today, man. Y'all packing it. When I hear you say that, in the first episode we talked about, I read a verse of scripture to you from Genesis, and there were 3 areas that he talked about. It talked about regarding the plants, right? And it talked about the grass. It talked about the herb yielding seed, and it talked about the tree. And in the tree, it says whose seed is in itself. And one of the things I related to the grass was community. Grass is like community. And when you think about grass, when you see a healthy lawn, the first thing comes to mind is that lawn is healthy, but it's healthy because the roots are strong. When you think about the roots of our communities and our families from a mental health perspective, I want you guys to give me commentary on that because, well, let me say it this way: when you look out, and this can be um, families you know, families you observe, or what you see as a society. However, but when you look at and you talk about um, roots being strong in the areas of mental health, what is your opinion or what is your perspective of it when you see it just across the board? And when I say across the board, I want to relate it to what families look like when we were, kids, teenagers growing up. And the reason I'm asking, I want there to be um, a correlation between the two. Because when I went in to get mental help, before they could go in depth, I needed to give them some history. And I know we're talking about mental health, and we should, but if you don't diagnose the history to understand the root of it, like I don't think you'll be able to move forward to make the forward progress. Like I was talking about the history of part of my problem with my father's relationship. That's history of it. But I also gave you the solution of how I move forward. So when we look at mental health, talking about grass, and you see a healthy lawn like that, the roots of it are strong. So what do you how do you see it? What do you see, and how can we diagnose it?
And you can go ahead, Dr. Page. You're about to say something.
You can go ahead.
So
See how lovely they are. I would be like, what?
Well,
Thank
what
God.
you're talking about the roots in the grass, it really made me think about narrative therapy. Because in narrative therapy, there's a Tree of Life project, and I
Okay,
use that with my clients
what now?
because
A Tree of Life project.
there's a Tree of Life project, and
Okay.
we talked about the tree last session, right? And I'm like, it resonated to me. God was like, you need to tell them about the Tree of Life project because that's something that we use with clients to help them identify. It's kind of like you build your tree. You start at the roots, you go all the way up to the fruit, and the challenges is every part of the tree. But since you want to talk about the roots, you were talking about your family, and of course, the roots is where you come from and your family, right? So we have what roots do you have in your life? How important are those? Does your past influence who you are today? Past always has an impact on where you are today. Any memories that you have, those impact your roots. Memories from childhood, like the one you shared about your father. Has your perception of your roots changed over time? Because how you perceive your roots today and your upbringing is not how you looked at your roots in the past, right? And where you were born and where you went to school, all that shapes your roots. And your roots, I mean, after the roots, you have the ground, which is the grass you were talking about. And that's your present life and your day-to-day activities that you engage in. So it's like you talking about the tree and then talking about the brainstem, well, the seedling, and then the brainstem and how it all ties together. You can't get to the grass if you don't start with the roots, and the roots basically are the foundation. That's the foundation. So sometimes in our life, we have a shaky foundation as children because our parents have trauma they haven't dealt with from their childhood. And then that spills over into the relationships that they have with their children. So the not showing emotion, the not showing affection, and it shapes the children, it shapes our lives as children, right? And like you said, you went and you got some counseling to help you process through that. But a lot of we talked about last session too. Y'all gotta go back to the first session because we talked about that. But but your past definitely has an impact on your present.
Mm.
It does. And what you do with that and the changes that you're willing to make can help you progress and move forward, improve your self-esteem, help you achieve your goals, or it can cause you to digress until you deal with that trauma from your childhood.
Yes, and Naila is exactly right. Things do begin in our past. And so for me, if I want to see what somebody's future is going to look like,
Yeah.
I just look at their present behavior. And then
Mm.
also I go back to their past behavior. Okay. Because past behavior, that is the best indicator of what's going to happen in the present and the future if you don't make the changes. Okay. And do something different. So I'm always looking at somebody's past because I want to know, okay, excuse me, where did the issue begin? You know,
Mhm.
was it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, childhood, whenever? Because I'm like, it's been there. It just hasn't been dealt with. And of course, a lot of times what we see on the surface, that's just a small part, just a
Mhm.
small fraction. When you get underneath at the root, that's when you see the bigger issue. And then that's where all these other issues stem from. And it's usually because something wasn't addressed, probably back in that person's childhood,
Mhm.
somewhere in their past. It all just shut down there. And so what we see in the present is just basically all the fruit. And of course, we know we got good fruit and we got bad fruit.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so when you're seeing all that, you just know there is something there. So I do like to go back and look at a person's past. I'm going to start, in childhood. I'm going to ask them about, their parents. I'm asking about school. I'm asking about the neighborhood because I want to see what did they experience? What did they see? Because again, our environments, there's a lot in our environment. There's a lot, that we actually see, and we're taking all of this in and we're learning from it. And so, of course, it is going to get in your brain. And then, of course, your brain's telling you what to do, what to say, how to feel, how to act. So for me, I do want to get down to what's the root, what happened in the past, and then be able to, identify what the issue is and see, okay, where did that person get stuck? And that's why they haven't been able to move forward in their life. When I look at mental health today,
Right.
versus where it was when I was growing up, I will say, when I was growing up, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
So families, of course, at that time, they seem to be a lot more resilient. Okay.
Yes.
And of course, in the homes, like I grew up with both of my parents. So I had my mother and my father there. So I come from a two, parent home. Whereas
Yes.
today, I mean, we're seeing a lot of single parent homes, typically
Right.
a lot of, single women, raising their children on their own. Dad is nowhere in the picture. We have a lot of absent fathers. And
Right.
so we do see the differences there, with all, the mental health issues. But it's like you were saying, Harry, that the fathers are not there. The
Right.
fathers are absent. These families don't have, that anchor there. And so even when you just look back to the past, I mean, when you look back even to like slavery, because this is where a lot of the issues came from. What did they
Absolutely.
do? They sold them in.
Yes, they did.
Basically, they were like, okay, he's done. We don't need him anymore. So we're going to
Right.
sell him off. We're going to send him somewhere else. So we even see like the breaking of the families back then to where they took the male out. Okay.
Right.
And we just see it looks a little bit different, these days. Like
Absolutely.
now we have a lot of men that are, incarcerated,
Oh,
all other
wow.
stuff. So it looks different, but it's just
Yes.
been passed down. And so
Mm.
it's a lot of those past issues that in the African American community, we have not addressed. And that is a
Right.
source, of our mental health. I mean, not
Mm.
only, really, the race that goes through a lot, we're
Right.
oppressed. We have a lot of stuff, going on. We have a lot of stuff, against us. But I think we do need to sit down and actually look at our past and see, okay, what happened and what can we do about it now so that we don't, just keep passing it down. And we can do better with our mental health.
Mm. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's so, that's heavy.
I want to say something real quick too, because you
Absolutely.
mentioned, having both parents in the home. Sometimes parents stay together because they say they're doing it for the kids. That's not always in the best interest of the children,
Mm.
because then children are in a home that appears to be together, but it's really a broken home because the foundation is not there. And the parents don't want to be together. And that negatively impacts children more than parents separating and having at least one stable household.
Wow.
And that's something we don't talk about or look at a lot, but it's real. That's real life. If you have a parent who's an addict and the child sees the parent leaving the house, not coming back for days, those are things that you're instilling in the child. Those are behaviors and patterns that the child is going to perceive as normal. And then they could possibly grow to become an addict or be in the same kind of relationship because you've normalized that type of environment for the child because you weren't willing to change, to break the patterns and change for whatever reason. There's no judgment, but it's just looking at things like that matter as well, because that negatively impacts not only the mental health of the parents, but the children. And the children don't really have a say. It's our responsibility to protect our children, right?
Man, you guys are waxing deep today. Y'all are waxing so deep. When you both said what you said, I thought about something in our families. This could be a whole nother podcast, but we're going here. I'm thinking of the way to say it because I want to be respectful. I would never disrespect any family or any relationship at all, but there are things in our family, and I'm speaking to both ends of the scale, from the parental end of the scale. There are things that happen in the family that have been secrets, right? I understand there was a season, and I understand there was a time where those secrets you may feel like were necessary in terms of the betterment or for the good of the family. But when you grow, you mature, and you begin to see the fallout of the secret, there has to come a time and a place where you have to give up the goods. In other words, you have to expose the secret because the detriment of the secret is killing the family. Now, on the other scale of it, when the parent gets to a place where they're going to be vulnerable enough to open up and share as what you want to call the dirty little secret or the thing that's been hidden, I'm going to ask you to be open, to be forgiving, but be able to hear what the secret is. Let me give you an example. You can have, we talked about young men, so I'll use the example of a young man. We could have a young man who you've raised and is raising, but he is not doing well in life. There are some things that's within the secret that's being withheld. If they were shared, it would shed light on the behavior of the young man that's struggling. Now, I just can't tell you how that looks or how it needs to happen. You may have to get some help like I have. I have two guests on. Don't for one second think that I consider myself just on the level with them. I do not. I seek their help, their advice in this field. They can help me and my family, right? So you may have to get that type of help, or you may have to bring in a third party, a non-biased party to help you do it. But my point is this: you have valuable information that could move the family forward and stop the bleeding. And then I'm saying it this way because it's going to take some from both parties. The party to give the information, and then the other party is going to have to receive it, right? As believers, we understand God teaches us like about forgiveness, right? You do understand. I understand. There are some family secrets that I found out about later. The pain of it didn't hurt because I knew why it was a secret. When you can know the why of a thing, it gives it a different definition. Now, just because I do a thing doesn't mean I'm making the best judgment, but I'm doing the best that I can at that time with what it is, right? And so I don't want to give any examples of secrets. I don't want to do that. But there are some things, the information of it, if the other if the people who are struggling could have that information, it could bring about healing and help them move forward. And that's really the point. If you have the power to help somebody else's life be better, especially your family, I'm encouraging you to do it. And I know in families, when you're talking about feeling love and confidence, we know in some families that is a bridge that has been destroyed. And you have these family members on one side of the bridge, and then you have the other family members on this side. And the family can't move forward because of that piece that's missing. So what I'm asking you to do, have the conversation, figure out how to do it, figure out the best way. If you're part of a local church, you may want to talk to your pastor, get some guidance, some counsel. The Bible says there's safety in the multitude of counseling. So find out who, get mental health professionals. All of this is part of people feeling love, confidence. These things are important. No longer can we allow these. Remember in the last podcast, I don't know which one I said it. Maybe I said it in this one, but it's like these storm clouds that have been over our families, and it's just dumping rain after rain after rain. We live here in Houston. The world saw what Harvey did to us. After 3 days of just perpetual raining, the clouds were just over the city, and it just dumped so much water. You saw the lives that were lost. You saw the devastation of homes, communities, a city. Harvey shut our whole city down. Houston was basically like underwater. That's 3 days. We're talking about generations. Let's get rid of the thunderstorms, and let's figure out the help. Ladies, y'all want to comment on that? Because I think it's critical. I really do. As it relates to mental, I know it's like, oh my God, what did I say?
It's heavy for me. I go hard when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
I'm just saying this. I can say it now with a smile on my face because, I know my sister's gonna watch this. She'll tell you, I won't put our business out there. I'll never do that. But we've had to have some uncomfortable conversations. But I promise you this, our relationship, we already had a tight, strong relationship, but it went to a whole nother level when we were able to pull a cover off of this ugly stuff. Now, I'm gonna say this too. The person you may need to have the conversation with, they may be no longer living. What do? You gotta find somebody to talk to. Okay, ladies, I'll be quiet. I want to go on and on, but y'all help us out.
The way you're talking is like breaking chains. It's like when you stop keeping secrets, you're breaking chains. That's what popped in my mind. Okay. If someone is deceased and there was a secret, and I always say the journaling is the second best form of therapy. Right? If you can't meet with the counselor, write it. You can write a letter to that person.
That's good.
Write a letter to that person and put everything in there, how you felt, how that negatively impacted you, especially if it was sexual abuse, domestic violence, whatever it was. Write that down.
Right.
Write that letter to that person because you're still getting those thoughts and feelings out. Because wait a minute,
Naila, I got to confess on here. I'm telling my sister, I'm going to write you a letter because you ate all the Jack cookies and you didn't share them with me like you're supposed to. I'm going to write you a letter.
You better stop.
A letter is coming to you. Jack cookies, laters, all that. I just wanted to say that publicly. I feel better. Go ahead.
You play too much. But write a letter and you can tear the letter up, burn it. I've seen even where if the person was deceased, the person wrote the letter. And and a lot of times when you go to the burial site, there are like different vases and stuff in there.
Yes.
You bury the letter in. I mean, that's helping you get it out.
That's good.
Carry it with you. That's you're holding on to the anxiety.
That's good.
The depression, the feelings, and it causes other stuff, sickness. It causes other sickness. I mean, I'm just being honest, heart attack, strokes. A lot of people who experience those things, sometimes they have traumas that they haven't tapped into, or they've been holding on to secrets. I don't believe in secrets and sweeping stuff under the rug.
Yeah.
You mentioned going to the church. Now, what I'm gonna say is,
say it.
Due to my personal experience, I remember having a traumatizing event as a child, and I was taken to the church, and I
Okay.
had to talk about that event to all the deacons.
Okay.
That was more traumatizing than
Right.
the events that occurred,
Yep.
because those were not mental health professionals.
Absolutely.
They're only perceiving things based on the biblical perspective.
Right.
So I would encourage you to see a mental health provider.
Absolutely.
That way you have a safe place to talk about it with
Right.
no judgment. It can't be passed around the whole church. Because while
Absolutely.
things are supposed to be confident, they are not always confident.
Got
Some
it.
churches just want to know your business. Y'all, I'm just being real.
No, no,
Some
no.
people,
Absolutely.
they want to
Absolutely.
know your business. And
Absolutely.
it's best to talk to a mental health provider about that. And
Mm,
remember that mental health providers are mandatory reporters.
absolutely.
So if you
Absolutely.
disclose harm done to a child, a disabled person, an elderly person, we do have to report that, or we could lose our licensure for
Abs-
license. But
absolutely.
it's a safe place. It's a
I
safe
love
place
that.
to process through those thoughts and feelings.
Right. I appreciate you sharing that, Naila. That's a great point. As I share with my situation, my pastors at the time, they were a part of the decision in helping me make the decision to go get the help. And I will tell you, they did give me the spiritual medication that I went, but they also encouraged me to go get the professional help from the mental health professional.
That's awesome.
It was a safe place, and I wouldn't dare, um, talk about any pastor or any ministry. But I will say this, because I am a minister of the gospel, and I understand church protocol, no call, who to call, not to call. We got to do better with God's people, just period. And now you may not know that there's a certain protocol for life events of that magnitude, but if there are, you got to have these procedures in place. And God calls us sheep for a reason. Um, the shepherd is it's a huge responsibility. Now that whatever church that was that you went to, I'm not talking to that church. If you by chance listen, I'm not talking to you, but I am talking to the church where you find yourself there. It's important to do everything with integrity and the heart of God. And I know sometimes we can do that in ignorance, but that's not an excuse because people's lives are being damaged and torn. Just an experience like that, it's like I ain't never going back to church.
Right.
I'm never going back to that place, God. How can I trust you? And I just went through that. They feel like it's a violation, and to a degree it is. So we have to do better. And we're on here saying mental health and all of these different things. Like I was like, it'd be crazy. It would be just out of my mind for me to do this podcast by myself. No, 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 no. We're gonna bring on the help. And for ministry, you might say, man, I know that's something we don't have in place. Maybe you might want to put that in place or talk to the professionals to get their advice, find out what the legal side of things are. Because the church, and I will tell you, the church is a place, and those things can be addressed there in that way. Because a lot of times the church is the front line. It's the first thing people will think about. Well, hey, I'm gonna schedule an appointment with the church, right? And that's good. But sometimes there are some things that the church needs to handle, but then there are some things that the church should be willing to pass off and then cover it with prayer. And I'll leave that there. So it's very, very important, and like I said, no disrespect to no church or no pastor, but in those areas, trust me, if we have to do better in our family and in our communities, we have to do better in our ministries too. So that's a great place to get that help, Pastor. If you find, especially in the volatile season that you're in, you're going to have those things that come to the ministry. So I think it's good that we're talking about it and you share your experience, Naila, because we know it does happen, right? And when you're talking about confidence, being able to have confidence in God's house, the place of safety, it's important. It's very, very important. So I think we should look at those things. Dr. Stacy, what do you want to add to that?
So I do want to add to as far as the secrets. So that has been a huge, huge issue in the African American community. Although yes, we are a a tight knit group of individuals, very family oriented. We have not only, our biological family members, but extended family
Right.
members,
Absolutely.
and even, people that we consider family, they're just not blood related. I mean, I
Right.
will say, I have friends that I'm closer to than some of my family members,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
I'm blood related. But I will say that secrets, they do a lot of damage. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't believe in secrets either. I'm like, it needs to be told,
Yes.
um, because I'm like, if not, it keeps happening. We just keep, passing it down. One of the
Right.
things I use when I'm looking at, families is, and I want to know what's, going on in a person's family is, I use what's called a genogram. So basically what happens is, it's a diagram of the family, because, it's like a family tree. Okay. So
Yes.
we do our family trees, and you want to know who, great great granddad was, we're going to come down, to the present, generation. So a genogram, it's the same thing, but I'm asking about, marriage, divorce. I'm asking about mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. I'm
Right.
asking about, the addictions, alcohol, drug abuse, any other, sexual abuse, anything like that. Because
Right.
I want to see, okay, what's going on in the family, what's
Yes.
being passed down, how is it looking? And so what I was finding and what I see is, it is a lot of secrets. And typically,
Mm.
I have somebody sitting there telling me, and I'm looking at, all the information I put on the genogram, and I'm like, this is happening every generation. Everybody's just
Right.
passing down the same thing. The same stuff is happening. Nobody's saying anything. So I always encourage people. I'm like, okay, who wants to be the change agent? Who wants
Mm.
to say enough is enough, and
Yes.
say, we need to get the secrets out? I know there's a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't want to damage my family. But I'm like, if you keep silent, guess what? You're damaging your family, because this
Right.
is going to go on. Okay. You're still
Mm.
going to have, Uncle Marlon over there molesting everybody. Okay.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you don't say anything. And I'm like, I know it takes, a lot of courage. I'm like, you do have to be brave, but I'm like, you can be the person that's going to step up and say, I'm going to speak out, because it needs to stop, because I'm like, he may come after your kids next. Then what?
Mm.
Okay. Then their kids. So I do encourage people that, yes, they need to, talk. And I'm like, a lot of times we just assume everything is going to come out negative. And sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't. Right.
Sometimes somebody's just waiting for one person to say something. And then everybody else, they're like, this is my opportunity, to step up and speak out too. So a lot of times it doesn't, turn out negative.
Right.
A lot of good can come from those situations, because somebody was just waiting. And then you talked about maybe the person is deceased. So again, Naila talked about, writing the letter,
Yes.
and I know there are some people that, yes, they, take those secrets to the grave. Okay. But I do tell people, even though that person may not be here that caused you the hurt and pain, you can still forgive them, because that's,
Yeah.
the biggest part of it. I'm like, you forgiving that person. You might not get the apology you wanted or needed, but I'm like, forgiveness is for you, in order for you to clear your heart and for you to heal. And there's a lot of people, they're like, well, they're no longer here. How am I supposed to forgive them? I'm like, well, you can go before God, you can pray. Again, you
Yes.
can sit down, you can write out that letter, however it is, you choose to do it. But I'm like, you can still forgive the person, because you have done your part, because you
Yeah.
needed to forgive so that you can heal and move forward in your life.
Wow. Man.
All that.
Wow. This is so good. Listening to you guys talk, first episode, this episode, I'm like, man, where was this 25, 30 years ago? Right. And sometimes you just like, be great. But I'm so happy that I've been a patient of it. And so now I qualify to be an ER surgeon to help people with the traumas of life, right? And man, I wouldn't have it no other way. This is good. And scripture says it's been good. It's good I've been afflicted this way. And I really believe with all my heart that families, individuals, husband, wives, mother, daughters, father, sons, whomever the business relationships, man, some of you guys have terminated and disconnected some business relationships you shouldn't have because of misunderstanding. And you guys need to reconnect. I don't know who it's for. You need to reconnect. Some of you look, and I'm looking at you in your eyeball. You left the ministry you should not have left. You got in your feelings, you got upset. God, you were praying to God to raise up a place. Give me a place that can help me get my life on track. God sent you there, but whatever happened, you allowed it to root you up out of that place. I'm telling you, go back to that church. Go back to those pastors. Say, I'm coming back home. I shouldn't have never left. And then pick up, fix whatever it is. Look, we have to deal with these issues. It's keeping us from life, right? And man, I could just be on here forever with these two. Man, y'all need to show Stacy and Naila some love, man. We doing it. I feel real good about this. I'm being helped. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I'm learning things real time, talking with these ladies, like that I'm going to take and I'm going to implement because I'm so thirsty for it, right? I want that part of my life to be so complete. And I hope you feel the same way. And I want to throw this in too. You're listening to these young ladies and you're like, man, where can I connect with them? And how can I find them? One of the places I know you can connect with both of these ladies at the same time is going to be at the 2022 Hope Symposium in the month of July in Palestine, Texas. Yeah, we're coming. I'm having both ladies. Last year we had Naila. She was our speaker. She killed it. I mean, she talked, she teached, she preached. I mean, she drank we didn't have enough grape Kool-Aid to give her after she finished talking. She was just I know she was thirsty. She talked, she spit that thing. It was so good. But this year, we're going to do something a little different, unique. You're going to get the best of both worlds. And I'm telling you, it is going to be so wonderful. I can't wait to get them there with the community. And we have a lot of great things in store for you. But that's going to time out for this episode, part 2. You know, my mind playing tricks on me. Factors affecting our mental health. Listen, it's Dr. Stacy Page, my sister, Naila Harrison. It's your boy, H2O, your potential conditioner. And as we always say, it's strength for today, sustenance for tomorrow. We love you, and we'll see you next episode. Peace. We out of here.